Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We've got, as you've seen, His Excellency Caleb Muftwang, Governor of Plateau State. He joins us virtually. Good morning, Your Excellency. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Hello, I can hear Chamberlain.
Yes, good morning. We can hear you here. Can you hear us now? Okay, we're going to keep trying.
Hello, Chamberlain. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Okay, so maybe they should just Okay, I think is it better
fine.
Now?
I can hear you now. I
All
can
right.
hear you now.
Okay, so thank you for joining us. So could you go ahead and tell us? I mean, you are the chief security officer in the state. You've got intelligence reports concerning the protest. I know there was a curfew. So what is the latest development now in Plateau State about the protests?
Thank you, Chamberlain. The protests began on the 1st of August with the legitimate gathering of the protesters. And it went on smoothly on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And everything was going on peacefully to the admiration of everyone. Because we have always believed that the right to protest, freedom of expression is constitutionally guaranteed, and therefore we did not do anything to impede that right. But by Sunday afternoon, we began to receive intelligence that this legitimate protest had been infiltrated by hoodlums. And then we had to now, by about 10 p.m. on Sunday, it became very clear that we needed to be proactive because intelligence was showing that at the dawn of Monday morning, we're going to see massive acts of criminality. And we therefore felt it was our responsibility to protect lives and property and not allow these hoodlums to take away the focus from the legitimacy of the protest. And so we had to impose curfew on just Metropolis, where we felt the biggest threat was coming from. So far, so good. There was a bit of resistance yesterday, Monday, but as at this morning, we're receiving very favorable reports that the situation in the area of trouble is getting calmer, and the curfew is being enforced by the security agencies, and people are respecting the curfew. This is the way a decent society should be.
So can we say that the curfew is for 24 hours, or is it the initial 24 hours, depending on how things pan out?
Well, it depends on how things pan out. There is no fixed rule. This afternoon, we are convening a meeting of community leaders, particularly in the troubled areas, so that we can further use dialogue to ensure that these criminal elements are not allowed to have their way. And so by later tonight, we would be able to review the situation and know where to go from there.
I mean, before the protest, the information that came through from the IGP's office was that they had mobilized their men across the country to be on alert and be sure that they do what they can to stave off any unwanted activity. Did you get any intel before now that these kind of scenarios were going to happen? And if it did, I mean, were there areas or spots that were red zones mapped out?
We certainly had areas of concern, and we were very proactive. That's why I told you we didn't believe that the protest should be frustrated. And we took steps behind the scenes using community leaders, religious leaders, traditional rulers, civil society organizations to sensitize people to stave off the likelihood of this kind of intrusion. And to a great extent, we succeeded. But when it became apparent that there were external forces, I can tell you intelligence shows that some of the merchants of crisis imported these hoodlums from neighboring states. because they were not satisfied with the peaceful conduct of the protests on the plateau, and they felt they needed to disrupt it and create some bit of confusion. But it's because we were able to penetrate the camp of these criminals that we had the intelligence that led us to the action on Sunday evening. So yes, we had, just like the IG said, we also had intelligence in that direction, and we thought we could frustrate them. But when it became clear that it was difficult to frustrate those criminal elements, we had to take a decisive action.
So these elements, these external elements, did they come in before the protest began or after the protest began?
I can't say for sure. It's possible some of them sneaked in before the protest, but the likelihood, more likely sequence would be that as the protest began and they saw that it was peaceful in the first 2 days, they began to come in quietly. And by the third day, it was apparent that their presence was being felt in certain areas of the town. And so we had to act.
So you've been able to identify who these external elements are?
Well, we've made some arrests, and the security agencies are profiling them at the moment. The tailor that was sewing the flag, the foreign flag, we've been able to apprehend him. So we are finding out where did he get the idea from, what is the motive, and who paid for it. These are things we are looking into.
So before the protest began, you said that, I mean, you had meetings through the back channel. Were you able to identify who the quote and unquote genuine leaders of the protest were, or was it just youths, I mean, who were vocal in their locality that you met with?
It was difficult. Yeah, Chamberlain, thank you. It was actually difficult to say who the leaders were, but we knew the potential kind of interest groups that could be easily mobilized, and we reached out to them. Till now, I cannot tell you for sure who the real leaders are, but we know that some prominent personalities have come to the fore, and I'm not sure that those prominent personalities have control over the protesters. It may just be a convergence of interest, but we're still looking into who the real leaders are, and so that we can be able to dialogue with them. You know, we're expanding our intelligence network to know how to be able to identify the key leaders who actually have control over the protesters, so that we can dialogue with them.
Is it that the prominent ones don't have control, or these are preliminary info where you think, well, they may not have control over those people?
I'm not sure that those prominent leaders have control over the protesters. They certainly would have their own followers among the protesters, but not the entire protesting flock. There are certainly several interests that have converged at this point in time. And that is why even when some of the leaders began to sense trouble and began to say, hey, what are these foreign flags doing here? Take them away. Their voices were not heard. They were not respected. And so it tells you that there are many influences on the protest, and we're still trying to decipher them.
Governor Muftwang, just so we can touch on some issues that have been making the rounds recently, the conversation has come to state governors. And I have two questions, but I'm going to start off with this one. When it comes to allocations that have been given to states, reports are that those allocations have increased exponentially by over 25%, at least since last year. And we've been asking, where is that money? Because it is that development at the state level that many people believe has led to the discomfort that many people are facing and has made many genuine protesters come out to protest. Can we hear from you what the allocations are to Plateau State and what the money has been used for so far?
Thank you, Kayla. I can't answer for all the governors, But let me take exception to the use of the term money given to the states. These are constitutional allocations from the federation account based on the revenue allocation formula. So they are legitimate disbursements to the state. Now, for us on the plateau, I can lift my head high and say that we have given good account of our stewardship thus far, and we have embarked on developmental strides that have brought hope to the people of Plateau State. First of all, a big chunk of the revenues that have come to the state have been used in payment of salaries. We have a wage bill now averaging about 3.5 to 4 billion monthly. And I can't give you the exact figures that have come in, but they have fluctuated. Now, it is true that in terms of figure, in terms of amount, it has actually increased. But in terms of purchasing power, in terms of real value, it has decreased. It has decreased very significantly. It doesn't need any rocket science. When the last administration came in 2015, the dollar was exchanging to about 180 to the naira. Today, you are telling me that money has increased, but all of us know the value of the dollar to the naira. And many of things, we are still a consumer nation. Many of the things we are using in governance are imported. And so they are dollar denominated. And I give you a typical example. One of the roads I had to take steps to complete recently, since we came on board, is a bridge that was awarded way back in 2012 at the cost of about 3.5 billion. Now, because of the refusal of the succeeding government, which I took over from, to complete that project, it had to wait till we came on board. And it's a very important road for the state, a very important bridge that links two parts of the town. We had to now channel in another 7 billion to finish a bridge that had been almost 70% done, because diesel prices have increased, cement has increased, iron rods have increased, and so it's not rocket science. This issue, you shouldn't just look at the amount. Let's look at the purchasing power of the amount that the states have so far received from the Federation account.
Your Excellency, we would also like to get your thoughts on some of the scenes that we're seeing from Plateau State. It's brought to mind the question about human capital development in northern Nigeria, especially for all those young people, whether they are hoodlums from the state or whether they were employed by other states. It's a general problem in northern Nigeria. As governor, what human capital development work are you putting in place so that you don't have a state that has too many hoodlums? So much so that when regular, genuine protesters want to come out, they are told not to do so because they can be hijacked.
Kayla, this is a very sad development for me, as I saw those children out on the streets, 7-year-olds, 10-year-olds, being used to cause mayhem. It brought a lot of pain to my heart. And I must admit, I'm coming into the leadership space newly, but I must admit that those of us who have been leaders in northern Nigeria have failed in this regard. We have abdicated responsibility, and we are paying the price of that abdication now, leaving these children without education, not regulating, the birth, the training of these children. And so we have a lot of irresponsible people who take over some of these kids. You can imagine in one of the placards I saw, these children were asking that the price of of illicit drugs should be crushed. Some of these children have been put on illicit drugs by these wicked leaders, wicked custodians. And so we have a disaster on our hands, and we must come together and address it. If not, it's going to engulf the whole nation. It is from these uneducated children, underfed children, that all the criminal elements, armed robbers, Boko Haram, all of them, they draw from that pool to be able to beef up their ranks. And we are sitting on a time bomb. For us on the plateau, we have a very serious challenge because it's not just about human capital development. You also have to look at some of the religious undertones that have sustained this unfortunate state of affairs. Like I said, we are going to be having series of meetings with our community leaders and religious leaders to put heads together. How do we address these children? I can tell you for free that some of these children were brought in from outside the state. They are certainly not just all from this state. But I cannot deny that some of them were born and bred in this state. And we are going to be holding parents accountable and responsible for the children they give birth to. We're going to put these measures in place. As a government, it is my own ambition to ensure that by the time I leave office, that no child is denied education, sentenced to illiteracy because the parents could not pay their school fees. So we are putting measures in place, and that's why we're trying to invest in economic rejuvenation so that we can improve our revenue base and be able to service the social sector. And God willing, we're going to attack this very frontally, and hopefully we'll be able to reduce these incidents to the barest minimum. But we need the collaboration of other states in the northern part of the country, because while you are making efforts in your state and others are not doing it, it will be counterproductive. And so we need to have a national dialogue on this. It will not even just be left to the northern states, because some of these children are being exported to the southeast, southwest, south, and before you know it, they will become a time bomb that can explode any moment. And we need to address it nationally without just tokenism. We must be honest and sincere that we have a problem on our hands and we need to deal with it.
And finally, from me, Your Excellency, local government autonomy. This is something everyone has been asking for, and finally it has been granted by the Supreme Court. In terms of Plateau State, the security situation there is one where your borders have been criticized for being pretty porous, where criminal elements and bandits are able to move to and from Plateau State, even to other parts of the northern states there. Talk to us a little bit about your role and what you're going to be doing with local government autonomy, especially financially, such that the security situation at local levels are being handled properly by local government chairmen and other people who are at the lowest levels of government.
Yeah, thank you, Kayla. Let me say this upfront. Apart from what you may call the infraction of dissolving elected councils, we in Plateau State, even with the TIC chairman, we have been practicing local government autonomy. I think when we get to the details, as governors, we will tell you what is happening at the local government level. I think some of the commentaries I've had about local government operations betrays a lot of ignorance on people who do not know what really happens at that system, at that level of government. I have been a local government chairman personally, and I know how it operates. And the bottom line is that we must bring governance closer to the people. How do we do it? What are the mechanisms we put in place? These are dialogues that we need to have in order to ensure that this idea of autonomy becomes a reality. But let me say this again. Plateau State does not harbor bandits in the real sense of it. They are brought in from outside the state. We have we have identified many entry points for these bandits. Some of them come from the northeast. Some of them are brought in from the northwest. Some of them are resident here within part of the north central. And from there, they are able to attack Plateau State. Now, I can tell you that where we are today is far better than the situation we met on ground when we came in last year. But beyond that, we are investing massively in technology to be able to have real-time information on the movement of these bandits. We have identified their areas of concentration, and we are pushing them back significantly. We've made some significant arrests in recent times, and we are not resting on our oars. We are also making sure that we sensitize the community on intelligence gathering. Without intelligence, there's nothing the security agencies can do. And so it is not true that Plateau State is the one, that the bandits are coming from Plateau State to other states. The reverse is the case. The bandits are coming from other areas into Plateau State. And therefore, we have enjoyed the collaboration of the security agents very significantly. And we're working together tirelessly in order to push back these bandits. Because for us, we have seen that the real enemy we should be fighting is poverty. Now, the only way to fight poverty for us is one of the key tools to fighting poverty is agriculture. Unfortunately, this banditry has not allowed us to develop our agriculture to its fullest potential. And so we have taken on this very seriously. We must reclaim our lands and put them to productive use so that we can be able to ensure food security and be able to build the economy of our dream. And so we are doing a lot. When it comes to security measures, you can't say all in public, but I can guarantee you that Plateau State people are conscious of what we are doing and they're happy with what we are doing.
Your Excellency, you have spoken about people taking responsibility for the children they bring into this world. Many had considered that a touchy area to talk about up north, and since you have identified it as a huge concern, is this something that you are willing to at least have a broader conversation across perhaps up north, saying, look, this is a huge concern. People cannot keep giving birth, quote and unquote, maybe more than they can handle. Would you be putting any figure, any number to any particular family?
No, Chamberlain, certainly we don't have an option. At this point in time, we must take the bull by the horn. We must know that I am pretty sure that a lot of northern elite do not have their children on the streets. They've sent their children to elite schools locally and internationally. Now, if that is the situation, it's not so much, first of all, about how many children you give birth to, but that we must be able to put in measures in place that if you give birth to children, you must take responsibility for those children. I think it must be a carrot and stick strategy that we put in place. I don't want to say this is the maximum number of children you must have. That is a dialogue that is beyond me, but I can assure you that from the Forum of Northern Governors, we're going to initiate this dialogue, and we're going to make sure that we broaden it to a national conversation. We must know that religion has a responsibility to society and ensure that religion does not become a setback for society. We must then be able to bring our religious leaders in tandem with global realities. We have religious beliefs in different parts of the world. How is that impacting on social issues? We should be able to have that conversation and know that we live in a global space, that we cannot be an island to ourselves. So this is a conversation we must have, both locally and nationally.
Your Excellency, we do thank you very much indeed for your time here today. We wish you all the best. We'll be keeping tabs and hope that any violence just subsides completely. Thank you, and all the best to you and the team.
Thank you, Chamberlain and Kayla. By God's grace, the situation is under control. We are just monitoring it to make sure that we do not open the floodgates too early, so that we have a reversal of the gains that we have made. But thank you for your concern. I appreciate it.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at some messages that came through from you. This is from Professor Imohena. He says, multi-dimensional poverty in Nigeria is higher in rural areas where 72% of people are poor compared to 42% of people in urban areas. Child poverty is prevalent in rural areas with almost 90% of rural children experiencing poverty.
Nusoda Wanapia says vandalism is criminal and unacceptable. But where they have seen such mammoth without chaos, especially for hungry, irate, unschooled, and genuinely pressed and troubled people, the energy and security needs of this country need to be addressed. This protest should not be taken lightly.
Well, Atinuke and Khalil, thank you for your messages as well, and everybody else. We do appreciate all of that. Please do keep them coming. But that is the show today. Well, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Goodbye.
In everything that you do, stay safe. Do not vandalize. I'm Kayla Megwa. Have a great day.